Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I wonder how you're all going, because that new moon in Scorpio eclipse that we had was very intense, particularly for those of us that have a stellium of planets or sun, moon, and ascendant in Taurus or Scorpio. This really is a time of accelerated transformation, but it's through intense emotional states. That's how Scorpio transforms us. And yesterday morning, I facilitated a men's circle for the brothers that are journeying the hero's journey with me around the zodiac as the sun moves through each of the zodiac signs. And for Scorpio this month, all of us are being initiated by life, as we are, through the supreme ordeal. And this is facing our greatest fears, letting go of emotional attachments, ego death, surrendering everything up to highest will. It's when, it's a time of crisis. It's a time of, will we choose fear or love? It's a crossroads. And I spoke about this yesterday afternoon when I launched my Whirling Rainbow tour. So a big thank you to those of you that came. Hi there. And, I spoke about the power of us gathering during the vortices of nature. And this is how we can harness people power to midwife and rebirth ourselves into this new era of humanity known as the Aquarian Age or the New Age. So I thought I'd just speak a little bit about, what we're navigating at the moment. So we're currently between eclipses. So this is a time of big life changes. The eclipses happen close to the lunar nodes, which are the high and low points of the moon's orbit. And this takes us to our highs and our lows, to the extremes. Hi, Ken. Hi, Rinda. So, this is a time when we see our extreme light and our extreme shadow. And this is a gift, because the more that we reclaim of who we are, the bigger that we are, okay? The bigger the being, and the more responsible we are with all of who we are, both our light and our shadow. And that's what real power is. Power is our ability to respond, to be responsible for not just our gifts, but our unconscious thoughts and behavior, how we're acting from wound and wounding others in doing that. So I had a big humbling, one of the brothers pointed out my shadow, and it was such a beautiful moment of, the light entering the dark for me. So blessings on you, Mark. This next eclipse that we are approaching is on November the 8th. And, Scorpio is the 8th sign. So the 8th day of the 8th sign is quite a portal. 8 being the number of power and abundance. It's about reciprocity, and, it's how energy moves. So this is a very powerful portal because it's a total lunar eclipse. So that makes it even a magnified full moon being the time of illumination, the time when the moon reflects the most amount of sunlight. And so this is, a time of aha moments, of getting it, of integrating the stuff that got triggered at the new moon that we had on the 25th of October in Scorpio. I'll speak to that in a sec, Carrie. Thanks for your question. So this full moon eclipse, it is also the Beltane or Samhain full moon. Now, I'll explain what I mean by that. Beltane is the rites of spring. It is the halfway point for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. So it's a time of fertility, of growth. It's when traditionally people would jump the broom or commit to journey for a year and a day in sacred union. It was the crossing of the threshold into union, okay? In the Northern Hemisphere, this is Samhain, which was renamed All Hallows Eve and then Halloween. And this is a different threshold. This is the real beginning of the fall or the descent, when the shadow comes up in relationship, and it's a very testing time for relationships. So those in the Northern Hemisphere in particular, this may be a time when you recognize, actually, I'm not able to keep journeying in this container of relationship. This is not safe. The shadow is not being owned by the other person. And when the shadow is not owned, it gets projected onto the other, and it becomes very wounding, the dynamic, and toxic. So this is a time, a make or break time for relationships. And so, you know, it's about death and rebirth, the Scorpio Taurus axes. The bigger the death, the bigger the birth. So, you know, here in Australia, we still see Halloween decorations everywhere. You know, there were celebrations yesterday. Oh my God, for the Day of the Dead everywhere. It's like, hey, folks, we're not in the death phase. Halloween is the halfway point between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. So, you know, it is not that in the Southern Hemisphere right now. If you want to celebrate Beltane, this is about celebrating love. This is about celebrating growth. You know, traditionally, people would put posies of flowers anonymously on their neighbours' doorsteps for Beltane. And the maypole representing the phallus of the divine masculine would be plunged into the earth and decorated with ribbons and danced around. And there would be sacred rites to promote the fertility of the land. So, and this wasn't superstition. It's on the understanding everything is interconnected. And, you know, we have huge rates of infertility right now on the planet. And it's because we're so disconnected from being in sacred communion with our bodies, with each other, with the land. So anyway, if you want to read more about that, check out either my Goddess Wisdom book or The Grail, which are both available on Amazon. Getting back to what I was going to speak about, we are coming up to a very powerful window on November the 30th, okay? And this is why I'm offering a program for men, particularly to harness this window. And I'm referring to Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is a constellation, not a sign, but it's the sign of the awakened man. And it was said to be Asclepius, the father of modern medicine. And he was convicted of raising people from the dead, which is not raising them physically from the dead, but waking them up, helping to activate their Kundalini, their serpent of consciousness. And so he was supposedly cast out into the stars, and he became the constellation of Ophiuchus, which is showing a man raising the twin serpents, which represent the meridians of sacred feminine and sacred masculine energy and consciousness. So this is Shakti and Shiva, the power and the energy of the sacred feminine and masculine from within the earth, and awakening it up through the chakras, the rainbow bridge, which is I suppose like the bioelectrical substations within the energy field. And when we raise that energy, we become self-aware. Okay, so this has been demonized in the patriarchal doctrines because they didn't want us to become self-aware. They wanted us to remain naive like children so we could be dominated. But when we raise the serpents of light, these meridians, which when we raise them together, they form the ancient symbol, the caduceus, which is the symbol for healing. Okay, so the key to healing is not in pharmaceutical medicines or surgeries. That's all interventions which are often needed as crisis care when we've neglected our health. But if we're to be responsible for our health, we need to learn how to not just raise these energies, but to caretake our energy system by understanding that first and foremost, we are energy, okay? We are oscillating particles of light. We are sentient beings. We are not machines, and we're not just physical dense matter. So this window in the ancient world was when the tantrics would raise their Kundalini. So it's a window from November the 30th to December the 17th. And it's, I suppose, the second half of Scorpio or Scorpius. And this is, you know, a time when if you do Kundalini raising processes and activities, it will be amplified, it will be accelerated. So that has to be done safely, because if we raise Kundalini without consciously integrating the archetypal lessons at the 7 gates, the 7 chakras or energy centers, we can experience moments of transcendence if we're not grounded that can result in psychosis, what's called a Kundalini emergence or a spiritual emergence. So this needs to be done with deep respect for the power, the bioelectrical power of the earth, and an understanding that when we raise this energy, it purifies our channel, and that means that we experience very intense emotions, okay? All of the grief and the rage that maybe we've swept under the rug and put in our subconscious, in Pandora's box. So I facilitate this journey and have done for 26 years for women, and the last couple of years for men. And we journey over 7 weeks, the 7 faces of the sacred masculine, the 7 aspects of the God within, and we empower these facets, and we bring to awareness where they're operating in wound. And in the ancient world, this was the preparation for union, okay? Because unless we know who we are, we can't commit, okay? We fear losing ourselves or being dominated in a union. And only by reclaiming all of who we are, becoming whole, can we enter into a sacred union with another being that is committed to being whole, and create a harmonic mandala of union, rather than one where you're propping each other up and you're dependent, i.e. codependency. So this course is starting today. We do not take late enrollments, okay? So if this speaks to you, if it calls to you, or to the sisters, if you're watching this and you're like, I really want my partner to consider this or watch this video, share it with them. We will take enrollments tomorrow, but that is the last day, because this is aligning with this transit, and we're journeying 1 archetype a week over 7 weeks. And I will be supporting you with mentoring at the click of a button, as well as weekly circles. So circles are powerful because, and I'm talking about sharing circles, life is going to initiate us, whether we like it or not. You can't hide under a rock. And at the moment, everything is intensifying. So we are being put through a crucible where our stuff is coming up. Circles help us to make sense of what's coming up in a way that's really gentle and supportive and safe. And we see different aspects of ourselves mirrored back, reflected, and we're like, oh, I don't have 3 heads. I don't need to feel ashamed of my wounds. These are universal. We're all journeying this synchronistically, and we can heal together in brotherhood or in sisterhood. So if this resonates with your heart, if it speaks to you, I'll put the link in the chat and you can check out the course. Now, there was a question about manifestation. Is our ability to manifest stronger during eclipses? Look, there are conflicting opinions on this, so always come back to your own inner knowing, yeah, what sits right within you, within your heart, all right, and follow that guidance. For me, what resonates is yes, okay, because they amplify the energies of the new moon and the full moon, this is a time of acceleration. So it's good to be very mindful of our thoughts, particularly as the moon is waxing to full, as it is now. It will be full moon on November the 8th. And, you know, whatever we seed now is going to impact the next 6 months. So it is a time to be very mindful of the power of word, okay, of what you speak. And if you speak something unconsciously that you don't want to manifest in your waking world, you can always say, I take that out of the law. And that's the Reiki symbol for cut and clear, 3 circles and then a swipe to the right. So just, you know, but always come back to your own knowing. So I hope that's helpful. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, if you want to make sure you never miss a video or registrations or events, I have got an event coming up for 11/11 online called Atonement. Stay tuned for that. We'll be opening registrations this week. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share the video. Okay, ciao for now.